Hi everyone, my name is Agnieszka. I am an interior designer and I'm a founder of ACA Design Studio here in Toronto. Today is a really exciting day for us. We are filming our first YouTube video, and in today's episode I'm going to tell you my story of how I became an interior designer. So I feel like my life as an artist began when I was a little child. I loved working with my hands. I also had appreciation for beautiful objects and spaces. I think that deep down I knew that I wanted to be a designer. I just didn't know how to do it yet. And I think the breakthrough for me came in the form of movies. The movies that I loved to watch were the ones that were showing how artists live in New York and what they did for a living. And that was so inspiring to me, and I felt like I wanted to do that as well. I wanted to be part of that scene. So when the time came for me to apply to college, and when I got my acceptance letter to go to Pratt in Brooklyn, I was so thrilled and ready to move and start my life as an artist. Moving to New York was an incredible experience for me because it is a city that pretty much has anything you're looking for. And since I wanted to be an artist, it was very easy to go to galleries, to go to museums, to experience the music scene. So when I got to Pratt, I actually enrolled in the School of Architecture. I loved the courses in the first year. But during the second year, that's when I felt like I wanted to quit the program. I went to talk to an advisor, and she told me that it would probably make more sense for me to get an architecture degree, because at least I would have an option to be an interior designer or an architect later on. Looking back, I think it was definitely a great idea, because I actually liked having all that technical information in my back pocket, and I think I would have also missed out on meeting all of these creative people who had huge influence on me later on in life. So after graduating from Pratt, I now had to figure out how I'm going to support myself. My first few jobs were really not all that exciting, but the breakthrough job for me was one for a small architecture firm. And the reason why I wanted to work for this company, because they were working on the Gianni Versace flagship store in Manhattan. And for someone like me who's never been to a high-end retail store ever in my life, this was as exciting as it gets. What I also got to do at this firm was experience all the exclusive high-end finishes. And I got to see how the various trades were creating all of this beautiful art for this Versace store. So many of the craftsmen came from Italy. So I got to see how they would lay in the mosaics on the floor. I was hooked from that point on the high-end retail stuff. So after about 4 years of working at the small architecture firm, I felt like I needed maybe a change of pace, and I wanted to do something grown up, and I also wanted to get a raise. So I started to ask around. I was talking to a friend of mine. He said that he knew someone who works on Wall Street at an insurance company. I called up his friend, and after an interview, I got the job. My position at the insurance company was very different from what I was doing as a junior designer. My new responsibility was to meet with the project manager, and they would tell me who was moving and where they were moving to. And my job was to figure out the new plan and to figure out what kind of furniture they would need. I would then meet with an in-house interior design team, and we would go over finishes. We would submit our order to a furniture rep. One of the best things about this job was that I got to sit down with a client. I got to talk to them about what they needed me to do. When my client was happy, that really made my job feel so meaningful and important and fulfilling. During my 4 years at the insurance company, I realized that I was missing having a creative outlet in my life. So I decided to look for a new job. I applied for it, was at a company that was known in the industry as Polishing School for Designers, and that was Polo Ralph Lauren. So my experience working at Polo Ralph Lauren was incredible. I was really happy to be around so many creative people who were really passionate about their work. And what struck me the most about them was their dedication to the brand. I found a new appreciation for all the standards they had in place for how they display their furniture, how they do lighting. And what I learned from that is that design is not something that's arbitrary. There is a concept, there are standards in place so that you can achieve the same consistent look across all the stores. I also finally realized that just like Gianni Versace, Polo Ralph Lauren, the design revolves around the fashion brand. For like a young designer like myself wanting to do something creative and I wanted to learn new things, it felt like maybe that wasn't enough. So after 4 years, I decided I'm going to move on and find a position where I could explore creativity even further. So my love for design continued after I left Polo Ralph Lauren, and which is the reason why I ended up working again for another small architecture firm in Manhattan and with the largest projects. The biggest client at the time was Barney's New York, and Barney's, just like Versace and Polo Ralph Lauren, was a high-end store, and they were expanding their stores across the US and in Asia. So when I started there, we were working on Barney's in Boston, and we followed it up with San Francisco, Las Vegas, and Chicago. One of the few things which I learned right away working on this job was to pay attention and to be organized. Now, the person I was working for had very high standards for himself and high expectations for anybody working for him. At any given time, there maybe were five of us in the office, and the projects we were working on were high-end and they were super fast-paced. But I think the bottom line why he wanted us to be so organized was to avoid mistakes, because those later could end up being very costly either to us or to the client. You guys are probably wondering, what does my story of working in an architecture firm have to do with being an interior designer? Well, that didn't really occur to me either until the time came for me to start my own business and when I had to get a license. That's when I realized that most of my experience in all these years has been a lot closer to that of an interior designer rather than an architect. I want you to know that really there is no right or wrong way to get there. What matters is that you have passion for what you do and that you are willing to put in the time to learn your craft. So I hope you find this story interesting, and if you do have any questions for me, please do not hesitate to drop me a line. If you're interested in working with me, please check out my website. I hope today was interesting for you, and I hope to see you again. Bye.